Yeah, today we're going to talk about the UK personal statement. When you're applying to universities in the UK, you need to write a personal statement. You'll be applying to 5 different universities within the UCAS system, and the personal statement will be going to all 5 universities. So the idea is when you're writing this, not to mention anything about universities, because each of the different 5 universities will be getting the same statement. You want to be non-university specific when you're writing, but you do want to be talking about the course that you're applying to instead, okay? So you're making reference constantly to the course. So what course? Remind me? Business, okay. So if you're looking at a business course, you're constantly referring back to why you are academically suitable to study business at the undergraduate level, and also why you're applying for an undergraduate course in business, and which kind of skills and experience you feel that you've gained that are relevant for you doing a business course. So as you can see, we need to include why we're applying, which can be done by you talking about what subject interests you within the course itself, what your ambitions are when you finish, as well as why are you academically suitable for the course. That can come from skills that you're developing in school or outside of school, in a work environment, hobbies, but it can also come from extracurricular activities as well as inside the classroom. So skills and knowledge and achievements can all kind of give the big picture about kind of why you are academically suitable for the course, all right? Which of your skills that you're developing do you think are relevant to the course? So when you're planning your statement, it's best to kind of start thinking upon drawing upon ideas from a range of different areas in which you kind of demonstrate your suitability. So you may have done some volunteering work, you could have done some work experience. And even in the COVID climate, you can still actually do work experience and voluntary work online as well. Okay, so be aware of that and come to the college counsellors if you don't know how to search for that as well. We do have a document that can help support you find work experience and voluntary work online. There's still lots of things to access virtually. You could have attended some summer schools or done some taster days as well, which again, you can do virtually. You may have entered some academic competitions, or you might find yourself reading a lot in and around the subject as well to help demonstrate your interest in the subject. And the important thing for you to be aware of is that you're trying to demonstrate your interest at all times and then show how you're suitable. So in your reading, they need to be serious newspapers rather than things like The Sun or whatever. If you're looking at business, something like the Financial Times would be useful. Looking at journals, white papers, research that people have done. Same thing can happen in economics as well as it doesn't always have to be in scientific journals that are available to people. You can always look at to see what there is in terms of economics and also books as well related to the subject. This can also come from sports and clubs and hobbies that you may have had as well, especially if they are relevant to your course. What you'll find, we have a section on the PSL page with the UK personal statement in, okay? So if you go to high school, college counselling, scroll down to UK personal statement, and in there you'll find, first of all, the slides that I'm talking about right now. You'll then find a range of resources there to help you out as well. So in here, this first resource is basically an overall summary of what the UK personal statement is. This is the extended help sheet, which I'm going to be referring to quite a few times later on in the presentation. In here, you'll be able to find questions on how you can demonstrate your interest. So if you answer a range of different questions on why you're interested, how you're demonstrating your abilities and suitability for the course, there are a range of questions in there with example answers in here as well. So I'm going to refer to that later on. Very useful resource. This resource here is the worksheet that basically I find students find very useful using when they are looking to do their planning. So when they're at the planning stage, there's a range of questions that if you answer and use to help reflect upon your experiences in school and out of school, then this can start you moving towards the kind of right direction for your personal statement. And then there are worksheets, examples, and an example of a UK personal statement as well. Okay. We also have some videos down below here as well, which will help support you further. Everybody likes a video these days. It's 2021. There's lots of stuff to find virtually. So be aware that this resource is really key and very useful. So the reason why I draw your attention to that is because we're talking about planning. And as you can see, there's a screenshot here of one of the resources that will help you in your planning. So when you're writing a personal statement, it's going to be 4,000 characters or 47 lines of text. The number of lines that you write in a Google document will not necessarily be the exact same number of lines that you'll find in the box in which you can copy and paste your personal statement into in the UCAS application platform. So that means don't write it according to the number of lines. Just be aware that those are the limits. You're roughly in your first draft looking to write about a page, potentially a little bit more, because I give you feedback. I help make you be aware of what things we could remove or what things we can elaborate on further and develop what areas in the personal statement. So just to be aware, you're writing roughly about a page or more on a Google Doc. But when we do our final draft, so there'll be a lot of drafts. First draft is going to be due after the holidays for you. And when that's handed in, I will give my feedback. Several drafts and feedback and redrafting will go backwards and forwards between us until we got to a final draft in grade 12. But the idea is we want to get these pretty much looking as best as possible, close to final draft by the end of grade 11. All right, so don't use any italics or bold while you're writing as well. So there are a series of do's and don'ts when you're writing your personal statement. Some of this is quite self-explanatory and quite obvious, you know. Whichever type of essay that you write, there are a range of different kind of strategies and things that you do need to think about, such as making sure you plan and you draft, making sure that you are proofreading, making sure that you've researched your course thoroughly is something specific to this essay or personal statement, because the whole focus of this is for you to demonstrate your academic suitability for the course and convince the person who's on the other side that's reading it that you will be a good fit for the course and that you're ready to study what they have to provide. So by doing that, you really got to make sure that you demonstrate that you understand what you will be studying and find references and links to things that you are doing in school and outside of school now that all drive and channel towards your readiness for the course itself as well. So to do that, you need to make sure that you've actually researched the course. And so you know what the course is about to drive good evidence as to why you're ready and suitable for it. So that's slightly different in terms of this personal statement essay to other essays that you may write, because, you know, make sure you've done your research. And you also need to make it relatively personal to yourself as well, so you stand out and they get a good feeling about what you are like as a person relative to other people. But some of the things that are kind of quite common in essay writing that you need to do is things such as always giving evidence and examples. So anytime you're trying to make a point as to why you are academically suitable for a business course, you want to continually make a statement as to why or how, and then support that with further evidence, support that with further examples. And to do that, you could make reference to the curriculum or curriculi that you're actually studying now. By reading what you're doing now, by reading what they want you to be doing on the course, you can then find links between the two, and then you can say, I'm ready for X, Y, and Z in the course that they have. And then the evidence you're using is X, Y, Z of things that you're doing inside the curriculum of the courses that you're doing now. So for example, if you're doing a business and management course, you look at the curriculum and the syllabus, you'll find tons of links in there that directly apply to a business course. not just only the business management course that you're doing, which will be relevant for the course that you're looking at doing, but you'll find loads of other skills from other subjects. For example, if you're doing maths, there may be statistical analysis in there that is directly transferable over there. You could be doing visual art, which demonstrates your ability to give visually interesting content for people for the marketing element. So you're drawing upon the range of skills that you're developing across all of the subjects and trying to align them up with the subjects that you're looking to apply to. So a general business course will obviously require a slightly different skill set to a business with marketing course, but as long as you're aware of what those things are in the course, then you'll be able to tailor your writing accordingly, if that makes sense. Part of the other do's that you need to do, evidence, obviously, it's key, but also show your enthusiasm and commitment. Demonstrate in your writing that you're very enthusiastic and committed to the course. Focus on relevant achievements. Include relevant transferable skills, which we've kind of touched upon already. There are some skills that you'll find in other classes which render themselves very useful for the course that you're trying to study, all right? But then also there are these transferable skills in extracurricular activities, skills that you're developing outside of the classroom, which will be relevant for the classroom at university, okay? So, I mean, students often talk about the very common ones which don't really make you stand out that much, but yeah, things like communication skills, teamwork, time management, these kind of things. If you can try to be a bit more introspective and reflective and go further than that, then you'll stand out more, okay? And also be analytical, not just descriptive, but the more you delve into and analyze, the better it will come out in your writing, okay? In terms of things not to do, there's a range of things not to do, such as use cliches, exaggerated language, use gimmicks like guilty, I confess. Basically, you want to stick to plain, simple, effective English. That's what those points are generally coming onto. Don't lie or plagiarize. There is something called copycat. Admissions staff can see whether or not there are elements of your personal statement that are exactly the same as other people's personal statements historically going back several years. So that means that if you've got an older brother or sister or an older friend that gives you their personal statement to share with you, to show you kind of the things they've done, use it only as a guide rather than a means to copy, because they do have software which is similar to Turnitin. They call it copycat. Don't make spelling mistakes and grammatical errors. If you've proofread enough, this won't happen. Don't leave it to the last moment. As I've said, several drafts are needed to make it really good. So please do make sure that you're engaging in that and listening, using the feedback to help improve your writing. And don't use I at the beginning of sentences constantly. It's very easy, because you're talking about yourself, to fall into that trap. If after your first draft you feel like that is happening, then speak to me about it, because I've got this little technique called I spaced, which helps kind of give you a subordinate clause starting at the beginning of the sentence to help shift the I down the sentence, all right? So I'm just going to play this video now, because you've listened to me quite a bit, and now let's listen to admissions officer.
It's scary. You're sitting there, there's a blank sheet of paper, it's in front of you. You've got to fill it up. You've got to talk about yourself. You've got to talk about your interest in the course. But what do you put? This is your future. It's scary. Well, nobody knows you better than you know yourself. You have the opportunity now to show why you're so much better than everybody else applying for your course. So you've got to start thinking about what makes you stand out, but stand out in a good way. I'm Jane Marshall. I work for a university. I spend my life reading personal statements. I read lots of them, and I mean lots. That means I know what makes a good personal statement and what makes a bad personal statement. You have to remember, everybody's unique. There are lots of different ways of going about it. So this should get you well on the way to writing an excellent personal statement. So where do you start? Well, the first thing you need to do is start getting words down on that blank sheet of paper. Loads of them, whatever you can think of. Why are you so excited about the course you're applying for? What is it that gets you really excited about that particular course? What floats your boat? Be excited, be positive, don't be negative. Don't say something like, I've always wanted to be a dentist because it's so much easier than being a doctor, because that isn't positive. Focus on the positives. Tell us how you got excited about this particular course. Did you read an article about something? Did it get you inspired? Did you then go and see a lecture from somebody that made you think, wow, I'm so excited, I'm going to write a project on that? That's the sort of thing we're looking for. And you can get all of this evidence from work experience, outside reading, all the sorts of things you do that back up your interest in the course. So throw those examples at the page. Get excited. Once you've got the stuff down about the course, then you've got to start thinking about the skills you've got that would help you cope with that particular course. Transferable skills, stuff like communication, essay writing, leadership, that sort of thing. And you've got to start throwing more words at the page until something sticks. If you're getting stuck, ask your friends and family. They might be able to come up with some ideas. Occasionally they don't. Avoid saying things like, I know I can be an excellent teacher because my friends tell me I'm really good at telling people what to do all the time. Because think about what that's saying about you. Then think about what's exciting about you, what makes you unique. Think of what you do that's interesting, what makes you stand out. And remember, you may not think it's interesting, but somebody else will. You might like gaming, you might like gardening, you might like train spotting. So will somebody else. So get something like that down on paper as well. So what do you do next? You've got this big sheet of paper with all of these words on it, and you've got to get it into something resembling a personal statement. That means you've got to squash it, you've got to condense it. So you need to start off with a really punchy opening paragraph. This is the bit where you tell us how incredibly excited you are about the course you're applying for and that you really understand what it is you're getting yourself into. Then you move on to the middle paragraph. That's the chunky bit. That's full of all the evidence you're going to need to prove your interest in a particular course. You're also going to sprinkle in some of the bits about your skills and good qualities so we know you can actually do it, but that's your middle paragraph. And then you move on to the end bit, and that's the bit about the personal touch. This is the bit where you tell us you are unique. You tell us about the things you're interested in that will help you fit into university life as a whole. So, what do you avoid? Well, the first thing is verbal diarrhea. You've got to keep focused. You haven't got enough space to go off piste. So make sure you're being relevant about the course you're applying for. That's really important. Other things to avoid: showing off. Don't be arrogant. It's absolutely fine to back yourself up using lots of relevant examples. That's called good showing off. But don't be bad showing off. That is arrogance. Avoid flowery language. Keep it to plain English. We need to understand what you're actually trying to say. So avoid the honour and the privilege of a particular work experience. Just focus on plain English. Avoid cliches. I don't want to see anybody saying, I've wanted to be a doctor ever since I was born, because you haven't. That's rubbish. Keep it to actual, normal, plain English. Copying. Don't copy. They have some software called Copycat. It will catch you if you copy somebody else's work. So they're the things you need to avoid. So just to recap, this personal statement, you've got to show us that you know what you've applied for. You've got to show us how excited you are. You've got to give us examples. Make sure it's a combination, though, of head and heart. Be authentic, be focused, but be enthusiastic. That's what we're looking for. You're not going to get it right on the first go, but keep coming back to it. You'll get it right in the end. And eventually you'll have a fantastic personal statement that tells us all about you.
You've heard me say that the most important thing is for you to demonstrate your interest and then demonstrate your suitability. So how would you demonstrate your interest in the subject? Well, here's a series of questions that will help get you thinking about ways that you can demonstrate your interest. If you kind of brainstorm on each of these and then write in and around some of these questions, you might find that you're able to demonstrate the interest quite easily and readily. So can you point to any role models or leading thinkers or notable literature which has in turn affected your thinking and or inspired you? You know, was there a formative moment when your perspective on this subject had changed, or when you decided that you want to study this subject in more detail? Here are some questions that you can use to help reflect upon. If you remember earlier on, I showed you the resources and that extended help sheet in PSL. That's in the handouts. Examples on how some of these questions can be answered can be found on that sheet that I'd mentioned before. Just to remind you, in PSL, this document here, the extended help document, some examples are in there. First, think about why you want to choose your subject or the discipline. So why do you want to study business? And this will help organize your overall statement in general. Next, then you must demonstrate your evidence and your suitability for the course. So how do you do that? How do you demonstrate the skills and aptitudes necessary for the course? Again, there are some questions you can be asking yourself. And again, there are some examples on how these can be answered in the handouts. But I think you could do a lot better than what you see in the handouts, okay? So the UK personal statement needs to show two major areas: your academic suitability, giving evidence, and you demonstrate that you're ready for living at university life and be part of their community. So bearing that in mind, I've devised this structure, which is very quite clear. You might have found, or you see on the video that we just saw, they said, have an introduction, make it punchy, engage the reader. Well, that's what we've got here as well. Demonstrate your interest, grab the reader's attention in your introduction. Then they talked about the main section, where you've got to show everything in your clubs and everything that you do in and out of class. Well, I think by dividing that into two sections, your academic suitability, where you can demonstrate your academic suitability with the evidence that you've done things in class, and your extracurricular activities, and you demonstrating what skills and fit that you have for the university's community. So if you look at it, the main part in two sections, that helps give you a very clear structure on how to write. And then obviously you need to finish with a conclusion that reorients the reader, brings everything all back in together. So let's thinking about the introduction just briefly. I mean, we've mentioned a lot of things to do with the introduction already, but it's worth kind of reorienting ourselves. Reminding ourselves that it's a chance to really grab the attention for the admissions officer. You need to demonstrate your personal passion and explain why you have an aptitude for it as well. So this is where you should begin to discuss any major influences or inspirations that you've had in the subject. Then when you go to talk about the academic achievement or the academic suitability section, you can use academic achievements that you've had from class or outside of class. Discuss how your subjects have best prepared you for an undergraduate education. And I'll show you a nice flowchart that might actually kind of help you visualize how you can do this section, how you talk about what subjects are preparing you. And if you've had an international education, which you have, you can frame this in the academic achievements. So not all students that are applying to university in the UK have actually had the wealth of experience in international schools and travel and all those other things that you've done, which kind of adds a lot more value, which you may perhaps take for granted or not realize, but you're actually applying, competing for places against people that have been in the UK system based in the UK as well. And so bearing that in mind, the fact that you've got kind of all of this wealth of experience to bring to the table as well, it's a big selling point to use. So do draw upon that in your writing as well. Also, if you can draw upon things that you've done outside of class, extended work that you've done outside of class. So have you done a project, which you saw in the video, or have you done extensive reading, or have you done a MOOC? Do you know what a MOOC is? It's a massive open online course, which are courses that can be done for free from universities providing them, and it helps to demonstrate kind of your academic interests in a particular field, or demonstrate that you're willing to go further and deeper into a particular subject. Bearing that in mind, two good sources of that is edX, EDX, and Coursera as well. It's the sort of thing that you could be doing over the summer potentially. So when I talked about how are you going to demonstrate what you're doing in class, showing your relevance to the course content, well, think about it in terms of, here's the course, what and how will I learn things? What skills will they want me to develop in the university course? And then think, what have I got in terms of the subjects that I'm doing now? Look at the curriculum, look at the syllabus, look at the skills and the learning outcomes that you're doing at the moment in a range of subjects, as I've mentioned before, because there's lots of skills and learning outcomes that you can use transferably from other subjects, not only in the fields that you want to study in university. Then look for the links between the two and elaborate on those, backing it up with evidence, always demonstrating these common areas that you've got between current and future studies. So, between the current and future courses, whatever's common, make sure you're backing that up with evidence and add further supporting ideas as well. So once you've done the academic suitability stuff, you've got the extracurricular activities to then focus on. Think about how they relate to your overall university aspirations. Are there any specific skills that you're developing for the career that you're aiming for? Are there any transferable skills that you've developed within the extracurricular activities or technical skills? And then in your conclusion, make sure that you are being precise, tie up everything that you've done and give a final selling point to the university about yourself, drawing upon your academic and extracurricular achievements. And also be mindful of the character limit of the personal statement as well. So this conclusion should really only be a couple of sentences. Okay, so there's your structure: intro, academics, extracurricular activity, and then conclusion. Spend a bit of time looking through the resources. Okay, make sure that you read the personal statement that's on there. It's just an example. If you want further examples, you can always come to me to ask for some further examples from previous personal statements that have been written. But yeah, you've got an example there. You've got the extended help on the PSL page. You've got everything that you need to kind of start making your drafts. Plan. Don't forget to use this template to help you plan and look through everything that we have on the personal statements section in the PSL.